Hey entrepreneurs, it's your Podcast Mogul Phil Better here. I am excited for this episode as I know you are. Before we jump into this episode, I'm going to ask you if you are also a podcaster and you're looking to grow your podcast or monetize your podcast, make sure you stay till the end of the episode. I have a special deal for you, or a special offer, if you will. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's jump into the episode.
Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the Podcast Mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another amazing episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better, and I am so happy to introduce our guest today. They are what we call a pitch coach, a world traveler and remote business owner, aka my favorite type of person, a digital nomad. They are passionate about startups, travel, food, and all things entrepreneurial. With a vast experience in startups, business development, and pitching investors for those tech startups, our guest knows firsthand how confusing and challenging it can be for first-time founders to pitch and raise that all-important seed funding. Having coached founders across the globe, our special guest specializes in pairing founders to pitch for their first major fundraise. Building a pitch deck is one thing, but understanding how to talk to investors and package your business as an investable opportunity is something completely different, and you'll need both. Our guest founded Pitch That Startup to provide step-by-step guidance and coaching for startup founders to craft a winning pitch and set the stage for success. Please welcome our guest, Ben Peleg. Ben, thank you so much for being here.
Perfect. Thanks, Phil. Thanks for that great introduction there. I really appreciate it. Excited to be on the podcast.
It's my pleasure. When I got your request to be on the show, I was like, yes, I want Ben on the show. I love having people that help. It feels like we're in the same world. I pitch podcasts and help people build their podcasts. You help build the next Apple or the next Google, or whatever it may be, or even the next, AppSumo, which is an amazing business a marketplace for business owners. And I can't thank you enough for being here. And I'm so excited to learn about how you got into this. Like, how did you start? I'm going to just jump into it like right away. How did you start? Like, where did, becoming the pitch coach start?
Yeah, great question. So I've been for a long time now, sort of for the last 8 to 10 years, I've been in the startup world, working for a variety of different early stage startups, initially as an employee in sort of business development and sales capacities. But as I'm sure many people know, when you're in an early stage startup, you get involved in loads of different, you wear many hats, you get involved in loads of different areas of the business, which I was really enjoyed. But I always had this idea that I wanted to do my own thing as well, and not just work for somebody else. And I guess that's what drove me to getting into the startup world in the first place, even as an employee. Then, so I was always, for me, pitching. It started off pitching to clients was kind of where I really started with this, and developed kind of my expertise in that. I got very involved in the fundraising process as well. And then when COVID happened, I was just sick to death of being in one place for so long. And that was sort of, for me, the final straw that said I wanted to find a way to travel. And I wanted to do what I had always dreamt of doing, which was to be my own boss and start my own business at the same time. So for me, it was about combining those two aspects, traveling and starting my own business. So I kind of did both at the same time, booked a trip to Thailand, quit my job, booked a trip to Thailand, and sort of started from scratch out there, based on what I knew, which was pitching, fundraising and business development. And so building a business around that. So that's more or less where this all began.
All right. So COVID, which I love, COVID, I think, transformed the world in more ways than one. Not only did it show that community is so important because we had to come together to help all members of our community, but it also gave people who were kind of at the end of the rope with the 9 to 5 drudgery, if it will, and exposed how the world is much more global than we thought. Like you were able to travel and start this business. A lot of people were like, wait, this is possible? Because it was like always the seedy underbelly I found were able to live that nomadic life because you heard about making money on the internet and it seemed all magical and that. But COVID really exposed that now it's very simple. Well, there's a simple process around it. It takes some hard work, but once you start going, it's amazing. And I love how you found the same thing, but it was because you were fed up of being in the same place, which I think everybody was. What was it like your first couple of months in Thailand, living this digital nomadic life?
I mean, it was amazing. It was something. I mean, for me, it was a long time coming. So before, the original story for me starts where I had saved up a lot of money in beginning of 2020, and I was planning to just go sort of backpacking through South America, and then COVID hit, and it stopped me from that plan. I'd actually at that point just quit my job, and I was about to go traveling, and then the entire world shut down. So I had been then, I had to get myself back in employment through COVID. Just sitting in my room working like the rest of us. So I had been sort of waiting for this for a long time, and then through COVID, I realized, maybe instead of just backpacking and blowing all my money, I could actually do this indefinitely and run a business while traveling. Right. So for me, it was like, finally, after 2 years of being in my house, I'm out in Thailand. And, at that point, I mean, one thing I love about the name of this podcast, Invest in Yourself, that's exactly what I did. So when I started out in Thailand, I wasn't just on my own. I invested in a coach to help me to get my business started. Obviously, I knew the thing that I was helping people with, but I knew nothing about marketing myself online and just generally the process of starting this business. How do I get clients? All of these things. So for me, that was what the first couple of months was all about. It was like really fine tuning my niche, starting to use social media properly to be able to find clients, learning to create content, all of those kind of things. It was super exciting. And obviously when I got that first client when I started, that was a huge moment out in Thailand, big celebration, and it's just kind of spiraled from there.
Oh, I love that. I love the fact that you were able to, you took time and, like you said, invested in yourself and the skills that you didn't have, because you had all these great skills that can help businesses and startups, but you didn't have the skills to create the ecosystem around it, the processes, the systems, doing the hiring, firing, because that's something maybe you didn't have the skill set for. And investing in that coach obviously helped because you were able to land your first client, then a second, third, fourth, and now here you are, helping hundreds of thousands probably of businesses with your different methods and your content to get them to the level where they're able to bring their product or their service to the mass so that they help more and more people, which just improves the life for everybody involved. And I love that there's an ecosystem behind the entrepreneur, if you will, that are still entrepreneurs. When you were working with this coach, did you ever feel like you had a moment where you're like, maybe this isn't for me?
I mean, over the course of the last couple of years of doing this, for sure, there are times where you have those moments. I think, for me, the biggest thing was the mindset shift from being an employee to being, to being an entrepreneur and not having a regular income. That's difficult at the beginning, especially when you don't necessarily trust your process. Right. So for me, it took time, but I did get to a point where I was like, okay, I may have some brilliant months and some less brilliant months, but over the course of the year, it is averaging out the same, if not better, than what I was earning when I was an employee. But even now that I'm a little bit more established with this, I still have some periods where it dips, right? And it's, for example, over the summer, it's always really hard to get clients in the door, and doubt can start creeping in. So sometimes for me, it just helps to take a little bit of a broader view rather than worrying about exactly how much is coming in every month. Another thing for me is, I'm traveling a lot. I'm in Buenos Aires in Argentina right now. I'm spending time with other entrepreneurs, other digital nomads, which is awesome. Actually, some of the most difficult things for me is when I go back home, when I go to London, and I sort of reintegrate with my friends and family there who are not doing this type of thing, and they sometimes can put doubts in my head just based on their lack of understanding of this world, and making me think I'm doing something so crazy when actually it's really not. And there's so many people doing it. It's not as hard as you might think. So yeah, I think that's the biggest one for me when I go back home, having to realize that, just because someone else is still in their 9 to 5 and thinks that what I'm doing is crazy doesn't mean it actually is. They're just not aware of it.
Oh, I like that. And that's something I feel a lot of the people who start their entrepreneurial journey I know it's for me, when you're in the old mentality, the old mind state, is when you come with people who don't understand what it's like to be an entrepreneur. They understand what it is to be an employee. Everybody has that connection to the employee mentality because we all had a job, a 9 to 5, if you will, part-time or not. But when you're surrounded by so many entrepreneurs, like whenever I get a chance to interview entrepreneurs, I feel over the moon because I'm sharing. I'm like, oh, you get it, you understand, because I'm doing the exact same thing, trying to build this ecosystem for podcasters to go to the next level. You're building for startups to be able to get that fund so that they can hire more people. So eventually, maybe your 9 to 5 friends can work for a company, that you help pitch, to get that seed money. But yeah, when you're surrounded by the older mentality, I want to say the previous version of you's mindset, do you have memories, or is there some moments that you just go, nah, this is that pull you back into the entrepreneurial world, like keeps you bound, and not bound, but keeps you grounded in that world so that you can continue to do what you do?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the sort of the freedom to manage my own time and to be sort of location independent is huge for me. Like, I hate the idea that I would have to go back to a position where I have to request annual leave, or request to go on holiday. Nowadays, that idea sounds ridiculous to me. Like, if I want to take a day off, I'm just going to book my calendar and take a day off. I don't, yes, I need to make sure that it's not impacting on my clients, but other than that, it's me that decides that. And when, for example, I speak to my friends back home and I'm like, oh, you should come visit me out here in Buenos Aires, and they're like, well, I only have 2 weeks of vacation left and annual leave left, and I'm going to have to check with my boss. And I'm just like, God, I really don't want to go back to that. For me, that was a big part of it. Just having that ability to manage my own time, to travel, to work from other places, and just not be confined to how strict or unstrict my boss might be at the time. I've had bosses who are very lenient and are relaxed about things if I were to want to go and work from another country. But then I've also had bosses who are not at all, and for no real reason. Even though I could do my job perfectly well online, wouldn't be happy for me to go and work from elsewhere. So I don't want to be at the behest of somebody else and what they think is good or not. If I know I can do my job through Zoom, then I can do my job through Zoom. So yeah, that's kind of where my head's at with that.
I love it, and it's great because you have as a digital nomad, as long as you have an internet, laptop, and a phone, you can do your job, right? That's the joy of working in this digital world that we live. There is no office per se. The world is our office. You can do it from the beach. You can do it from, in the room where you are right now in Buenos Aires, enjoying the nice summer, while we come in the northern hemisphere into winter, and looking outside my window, and there's a blanket of snow right now, and I'm just so, like, it's not even December yet. It's crazy. So I'm a little jealous that you're enjoying the sun while I have to deal with sub-zero temperatures. Just to let you know, there is a little aminosity coming towards you because you have some nice weather. But I won't let it impact this interview. But what is a win that you've gotten for maybe a client that you were like over the moon for, something that you couldn't believe happened for this person that you coached to get what they wanted?
Yeah, I mean, I can think of a couple, but for me, it always has to go back to one of my first clients that I worked with when I first started out, who kind of came to me in a little bit of a rushed panic, in that she had she had the beginnings of her startup. She had a product built, very early stages, and she had some meetings with investors that were booked in the diary for sort of a month's time, and she came to me and she's like, these investors want to meet me. I have no idea what to say or how to pitch. Like, I'm actually panicking. And we kind of work together. Usually I prefer to have a little bit more of an elongated period of time to work with people. But in this one, it was my first one. I'm like, let's do it. Let's go for it. It was a little bit nerve wracking. And, but she managed to get $2 million from those meetings that we were working on, pretty intensively over the course of that month together to set her up for. And she and it's not all me, of course. She had a great business, she had a great product, but it's almost like she just had this block in her mind about how to pitch, how to articulate this stuff, what investors actually cared about, what they wanted to see. And as soon as we sort of unblocked that, and were able to help her tell her story, then she had all the other pieces in place. It was just that one little thing that she needed that I was able to provide, which is an amazing feeling. And I'm not saying it always happens so quickly, but in her case, it was like within 6 weeks she had $2 million in investment offers, which was just incredible. So for me, that was kind of the biggest win, and it was pretty early on in my journey. So it was amazing, and she was brilliant, and she kind of created amazing video testimonials for me, because obviously she was very happy, and just really helped me hit the ground running with some success early on for my clients.
That's a great story. Like, especially in such a short period, because you're like, no, I prefer the longer, because it does take time to get everybody ready, because you don't know, okay, is it your speaking? Is that something you have an issue with? Is it formulating how the pitch deck should come, how to speak to the investors? Because everybody has their different methods and that for it, and it could be just lacking in one place or another. Here you have 6 weeks to figure out how to get her ready and get over that little mind hump, and it's amazing that you were able to do it in such a short time. Actually, it's a testament to your coaching abilities, being able to adapt to such a quick time frame, to have a great turnaround like that. Has there been clients that you felt like you were just not unprepared, because obviously you're prepared for most clients, but felt that were a bigger challenge to help out than you originally thought?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so right now I would say I'm sort of a little bit more in a place where I can selectively choose and market towards the exact right type of client that I'm looking for, which for me would be generally someone with a tech-focused business, a SaaS product or something along those lines. But early days, I was taking on everyone and everything that I could get my hands on, and there was one in particular who was really someone not at all tech-based. It was basically someone who was a drover in Australia, which basically means someone who transports cattle across the outback in Australia, and they were turning that into a tourist business. And I it was something awesome, because I feel like I would kind of love to get involved in that, but it was totally new concept for me. I was working with somebody, great lady, but somebody who had zero technical ability to even put together a pitch deck to use PowerPoint or something like that. And so that was quite challenging, and helping somebody like that who comes from a background which is totally different than my background, and being able to help someone like that to really get business savvy enough, from almost more or less from farmer to entrepreneur and business owner. So it was a really interesting challenge. That I don't usually work with people like that anymore, but we managed to get her some success as well, which was great. But yeah, that was quite challenging and stressful at times, that one.
I can only imagine someone who has nothing to do with, customer, like big customer service, dealing, like their people are farmers. They're literally bringing cattle to another farmer. They speak the language, understand everything. And you're like, no, I'm going to jump into a whole different vat of client base for vacation and travel and touristy stuff. Wow. And it's a testament to you for sticking through it and helping them.
Yeah, that was a really interesting one.
Moving forward, I want to kind of like, we've talked about what you've done and how you've been able to help so many different types of businesses. I want to go into, what are some maybe tips you have for people who are looking to start their own tech business? They're in the process of going through that. What are some of the things you would like to see for future clients, we'll call them, because you never know. They could be listening to this and be like, hey, I want to have my own tech business, start my own SaaS business. I have this idea. What are some things you would love for them to come to the table with, to not just make your job easier, but simplify it for them so that they are ready to jump to that pitch meeting?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the first thing, and I would say one of the most common challenges or things that I come up against, is trying to help people understand that building a tech business is not just about writing code and building some piece of software, right? Of course, that's an important piece to the puzzle, but one of the biggest problems that people are having, especially nowadays in trying to get funding and to pitch, is that that's all they've done. All they've done is built a minimum viable product. They haven't spoken to any of their customers. They haven't started to gather what's called traction in this industry. And they think there's this sort of mindset, I'm going to build my product, which can often, spend hundreds of thousands on that, or tens of thousands on building a product. And then I'm going to see if I can get anyone to buy it, right? When actually, if you want to look at this from the perspective of an investor, having a product ready is less important than having a groundswell of interest from people that actually want this thing that you're doing, right? So for me, I love to see when people have an understanding of that and will realize that people come to me and say, my product isn't built yet. Is it the right time to pitch for investors? It's like, you're asking the wrong question. It's not about where your product is. It's about, have you spoken to your customers, and have you got enough of an understanding and data points to show that when the product is ready, people are actually interested in this thing, right? So it's just a little bit of a different way of looking at it. And if you speak to more experienced founders and more experienced entrepreneurs, what they will generally tell you is that before they even start investing money in building the product, they're going to start to see, can I get signups? Like, let's say, just build a landing page and see if people are going to sign up to a newsletter about this thing, or letters of intent from potential companies that could be customers. Then we're in a totally different position. Then you can get funding before you even start writing a line of code for your product, right? So that's the biggest thing I would say. Let's stop this total 100% focus on product, and that's the only thing I'm going to focus on. Needs to shift a little bit if you really want to have success here. And obviously, I'm not saying, don't think about a product and don't invest in the product, but you got to look at this much more broadly as an opportunity in a market, right? It's not about a product; it's about an opportunity in the market. And before spending thousands on your product, you want to prove the opportunity in the market.
I like that. That is a great point, because if we don't have interest, you can build your MVP, and then when you put it out there, no one needs that product because they don't have that problem, if you will. Because all services, all SaaS, all business solves a problem, and if you're not solving the problem for your intended audience that you've tried to build, they're not going to buy it. They're going to be like, I don't need this. And you're like, but this is such a great tool. And it could be, no. And it's just a fail. And then you go back to the 9 to 5, or you go back to the drawing board. I love that. Trying to get that groundswell from your audience, which is such an importance. How have you been building your audience? How have you been building your general customer base?
So for me, it's mostly been through LinkedIn, Facebook, and email. Those have been my sort of primary platforms. I've been surprised at how useful Facebook has been, to be honest. I mean, for me, I thought Facebook was a dying platform, to be honest, and everyone's moved on to other things. But the Facebook groups seem to be really flourishing, even if Facebook is used a little bit less than Instagram for people personal posting and things like that. The groups seem to be quite a hub of different niche business activity, right? So for me, that was a really good way to get started, just by posting content in Facebook groups that were relevant to my audience. There seems to be quite a lot of activity there. So yeah, I mean, Facebook and LinkedIn primarily, but I would, just say for anyone starting off, don't discount Facebook. I mean, when I started this, I hadn't used my Facebook account since I was at university, right? This has been a long time, and so I had to kind of go in there and update everything and start from scratch and learn all the new stuff that you could do there. But surprisingly, that's where I got my first customer, and I still to this day get clients through Facebook. So yeah, those have been my primary mediums. I'm thinking about looking into kind of using TikTok and things like that as well. But yeah, at the moment, those have been my main platforms.
I love it. And I love that you're looking to always expand. And you didn't start trying to be on everything. You started with a small platform, or one platform first, and grew to the next one and next one. We are coming to the end, which I hate, because I'm having a great time talking with you, Ben. I'm learning so much about you and what you do, and love this connection, because I know a lot of people are starting their businesses. So if ever they come to me, I know exactly where to send them if they're looking for investors, or how, not just investors, how to pitch those investors. But I got your 10-year-old self beside me. I just clicked my fingers. He's here. He's a Spitfire. He's whatever your parents decided to say what you were at 10 years old. What's one piece of advice you have for him, for young Ben?
I would definitely say to young Ben that it's important to follow your interests rather than what you get told is kind of the right thing to do. So, for example, in the UK, in the school system in the UK, you need to make decisions quite early about what subjects to take. I think in the US, you guys keep relatively broad subjects right until even first or second year of university. But for us, we make decisions very early on. And I was advised to drop subjects that I actually enjoyed just because I wasn't the best at essay writing at that time or something like that. And this is when I was like 13 or 14, which I find just crazy. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic of discussion. But,
I have another podcast talking about education's coming out soon, so how we can make them better, But yeah, continue.
I think the point I'm trying to make is that for me, I ended up going down a route that I was kind of advised to go down based more on what would help me get a job rather than what I actually was interested in. So I studied civil engineering at university, because I was quite good at maths and physics, and I was kind of advised that would be a good degree to have to help me get a job after university. And maybe that's true, but looking back on it, I that wasn't the right thing for me. I wasn't that interested in that world, and I would have. So yeah, if I could do it over again, I would just focus on the things that I really love and I'm interested in, and find a way to build a business and build a career based on that. You're going to do a lot better than just pushing yourself down a route that is supposed to be the safe route, in theory anyway.
Oh, I like that. Stay away from the technically safe and try something that's a little more adventurous, if you will. Ben, I can't thank you enough for being here. I'm going to jump off stage for a short bit. I want you to talk to my audience. Let them know exactly where they can connect with you, how they can possibly work with you, because I know my audience may be at different stages of their journey. So if we have any tech startups or SaaS businesses listening in, where can they get connected to you? So the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So, I think the easiest way is to get in touch with me through LinkedIn. I assume there'll be a link on here that you guys can click on. Equally, my website is pitchthatstartup.com. So feel free to jump on there, and there's a link there. You can book a call with me if you'd like to chat more about this. So yeah, those would be the easiest way. Otherwise, if you're someone who wants to email, feel free. ben@pitchthatstartup.com is my email address. Hopefully that's pretty easy to remember. And yeah, for anyone who is in that world, who's interested in trying to start building a pitch, getting prepared to go out there and raise, their first major fundraise, or in fact, even pitching towards clients, that's what I specialize in. I've had many clients in that area who have managed to go on to raise significant rounds of funding, win pitch competitions and things like that. So I'd love to kind of get in touch with you guys and just have an initial chat, understand a bit more about your business. I always love diving into your ideas and what you're doing. So yeah, feel free to reach out.
Ben, thank you so much for that. And of course, links will be in the show notes to connect with Ben, of course. But Ben, thank you so much for being here.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for having me, Phil. That's been it's been really enjoyable, actually, recounting the going through this process.
Awesome. To my audience, make sure you check those show notes down below so that you can connect with Ben and see what he's doing, because you never know when you're going to need a pitch specialist. And of course, to my audience, I thank you for listening, and remember to always invest in yourself. Hey, digital entrepreneurs, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Now, if you're looking to take your podcast to the next level, like most of these entrepreneurs have taken their business to the next level, to scale it, if you will, make sure you check out my brand new newsletter. Links are down below. It is called the Monetization Mogul Syndicate newsletter, or it could be Phil Better Stories of Monetization Moguls, or Making Moguls is what I do. So make sure you go ahead and check that out. But I want to thank you very much for listening. And as always, remember to invest in yourself.